Hi, my name's Tanya Kubo, and I help authors build connected relationships in digital spaces. Actually, I help any type of communicator. So if you're a podcaster, a blogger, a writer, a speaker, even if you do other sort of work that helps you to make a living using your words, then I am someone who might be able to help you. Today, I'm coming live. So first of all, I should say welcome to the replay viewers, because replay viewers, of course, are the only people who see the very beginning of a Facebook Live video. But I just want you to know that I so appreciate you. I love my replay viewers, because generally speaking, you catch it on replay because you've stumbled upon my page later on, or because somebody has shared the video with you, and I really appreciate that. So as I said, my name is Tanya Kubo, and I help communicators build connected relationships online. And today, the reason that I am talking to you is because I want to talk about manuscript development teams. Because manuscript development teams are an author's secret to a bankable book. And I'd really love to explain a little bit more about that. But I would say that if you know anybody who's a book lover, an author, an aspiring author, you definitely want to share this video, because it's going to be filled with a lot of relevant information for them, but it's also going to have an interesting opportunity that I'm going to share toward the end. And I also promise that I am going to share one way that you can apply all that I'm sharing with you tonight in any type of communication that you might do. So even if you're not an author, even if you're not writing books or you don't want to write books, the principles behind a manuscript development team can be applied in various arenas. And I'm going to share that at the end. So I promise I won't forget. If I do, somebody can drop me a comment and say, hey, didn't you promise? And I'll totally make good on that promise. So today, the reason I want to talk about manuscript development teams is because this is a service I provide. I'm sure I'm not the only person on the planet who provides it, but I do know that it is kind of a growing area within writing. And I really, really, really love this opportunity. I love manuscript development teams for several reasons. I'm going to share about 3 with you tonight. But the thing to know about manuscript development teams is that they are kind of a hint that writing books today in 2019 isn't like it used to be. So I think the first thing that everybody needs to know about manuscript development teams is writing a book does not occur in a vacuum. So gone are the days when you as an aspiring author would hole up in a coffee shop all by yourself or head out to a mountain retreat all alone, write the great American novel, the great American book, and ship it off to a publisher, out to be birthed into the world all by itself, all by yourself. Like, that doesn't happen anymore. The best books are written in community. And, there's various ways to do that. Sometimes there's authors groups, right? There's writing groups. Like, I'm a part of a group that's called To Live and Write. And it's an incredible group, right? But a lot of times, group members will get together and they'll share, pieces that they're writing. And it's a very collaborative experience. Manuscript development teams are a little bit different than that, because a manuscript development team is really an intimate invitation into the author's writing process. It's a behind the scenes look at how a book gets written. And let me explain to you just a little bit more, because as a manuscript development team member, because that's usually going to be your introduction to a manuscript development team, you're first going to be a team member. And then as an aspiring author, you may decide to host your own manuscript development team when you're working on your book. So you're gonna, as a member, you're gonna join a manuscript development team, and it's gonna give you this behind the scenes look into the author's process. And this is how it typically works. Typically, you're invited into the group and you will start to receive raw content from an author. And so the author, you're going to get a chapter, 2 chapters at a time maybe, and you're going to be asked to provide some feedback. Could be just like within a Facebook group, just on the fly, could be through a more formal survey. And there's going to be this like back and forth, right? You're going to see this raw content. You're going to talk about what resonates with you. What works in this chapter, what doesn't work, what could be cut, or maybe what needs a little bit more explaining. Maybe there's a hole. Maybe you're like, you introduced this concept and I'm not understanding how you brought us around full circle in this. And so that's all valuable information to the author. And then what you get to do is you get to sort of see how that comes together. So a lot of times your manuscript development team leader will let you know the value that you're providing to the author throughout the process. Authors are typically not hands-on in manuscript development teams. There's usually a middle person who filters that feedback, analyzes it, packages it together, and then gives it to the author. So when I do manuscript development teams, when I lead them, I'm typically like the team leader, and then my partner, Lanita Smith, is a fabulous analyst. And so she's the one who's processing all the data, codes it, puts it all together in themes, and then kind of delivers a very organized report to the author. These are the things that the reader team thought you did really, really well. These are the ideas they loved. These are the ideas that they struggled with. Either they didn't understand, they wanted more explanation. Here's an example that people loved a lot and they just wanted to know more. She presents that to the author, and then what the author gets to do is the author decides what feedback to take and what feedback not to take. They incorporate what they need to into their manuscript, and then they ship it off to the publisher. Well, typically they ship it off to an editor. It's edited, right? So manuscript development teams don't look for typos. They don't talk about dangling participles or misplaced modifiers, none of that sort of thing. It goes from the manuscript development team back to the author. Then the author sends it off to an editor, and then the editor sends it off to the publisher, and it goes off into its happy little life cycle in the publishing world. Now, here's what the author gets. So I've kind of explained the process from the perspective of the user. From the author's perspective, though, they're getting first read, real-time feedback on their material. So, there's nothing more frustrating, I think, than having your book baby off into the world and then to find out that there was this concept in the book that a lot of people are struggling with. Well, authors who use manuscript development teams don't have that experience because they've already field tested their content. The other thing that authors get out of the experience of having a manuscript development team is some marketing help. So here's what I mean. So a manuscript development team, they're your first team of readers. And I know I've been on manuscript development teams, and we tend to be pretty passionate advocates of the book. And we're like so excited. We can't wait to see the book come out. And we tell our friends when the book comes out, because usually with manuscript development teams, there's a bit of confidentiality. So you don't really talk about it when you're on the team. But when the book's out in the wild, you get to tell your friends, like, I read that book, it's amazing. You get to grab that book and see what your influence was in it. The other thing, though, that the author gets is a lot of times, and this is really interesting because I led a manuscript development team last fall, and just tonight, the whole reason I'm going live tonight, actually, just tonight I received an email from a member of the team who was like, hey, I just want you to see how I've applied all that I learned on that manuscript development team into my life. So here she had read raw manuscript material, and she was already applying the principles into her daily life. It was already making an impact. So now I have that information for when the book launches, that with her permission, we could use her experience at launch time as proof that the concepts in the book work, right? That's especially true for prescriptive nonfiction. If you're writing a novel and you have a manuscript development team for a novel, obviously, people are probably not going to reach out to you 3 to 4 months later and tell you that the novel has changed their life, but they might reach out to you 3 to 4 months later and tell you how they had maybe like a different perspective, or they just had a thought about the main character, the protagonist in the novel. So I'm not saying that manuscript development teams don't have a place for fiction writing, but they definitely are really valuable when it comes to nonfiction writing. So the three reasons that I love manuscript development teams, just to recap really quickly, is that we don't write books in a vacuum, right? So if that resonates with you, the idea of you don't have to write a book in a vacuum, you don't have to write it all by yourself, please pop that in the comments. Let me know if that's a point that really resonates with you. Another reason that I really love manuscript development teams is because they offer an intimate invitation into the author's writing process. And I just find that fascinating, being able to see how an author approaches their writing, how author A compared to author B approaches what their work is that they're doing. So if that really resonates with you, please drop a comment and let me know. And then the third reason is that it lets the author road test their content. And I think that is such a valuable thing, right? Because nobody writes a book to have it not get sold, to have it not make a difference in the lives of the readers. And so we need readers to buy it, and then we need readers to like implement whatever is in the book. We want it to change their lives. So those are the three reasons I love manuscript development teams. And now what I want you to know is I have a special invitation for you, because I actually am openly recruiting for a manuscript development team right now. And that's why we have this video. And I would love for you to consider applying. Now, here's some things to know is the application process for manuscript development teams is much more competitive than the application process for a book launch team. And that's because you are getting that inside view into the author's writing experience. And because it's much more intimate, there's a little bit more of a selective process when it comes to deciding who gets to be on the team. We definitely don't want people who are just interested in looking for typos, right? Because it's really a much more big picture conceptual process. It's only about an 8 to 12 week commitment. It depends on the length of the book, but typically you're looking at getting about 2 chapters a week. And then you have about a week to turn around your feedback survey. And then you have another 2 chapters, and then you turn around your feedback survey. And generally speaking, most authors I work with want at least the commitment from every team member that they will turn in 80% of the surveys they receive. So if 10 surveys go out, they want to make sure that every single person does at least 8, because there's only value in getting the data. And so you need, 50, 60 people to go ahead and give you 8 to 10 surveys in order for you to have really good data on what works, what doesn't work, what needs to be expanded, what needs to be cut. So that's the general sort of parameters for a manuscript development team. So that gives you an idea if you'd like to apply. I'm going to put the link for the current team that I'm recruiting for in the comments, so you'll have that. You're welcome to share this with your friends, share this with other people you know who love books, and then they too can look in the comments and click that link to apply. And then I promised you one final tip. I promised that I would show you how you could apply the concept of a manuscript development team to any type of communications work you do. And so I'm going to give that to you right now. And then I promise, as soon as I'm done with the live, I'll post the link for the current manuscript development team application here in the comments. The final tip on how you can apply this concept to any type of communication that you do is sub out the term manuscript for message. So instead of thinking about a manuscript development team and, oh, I have to be an aspiring author to do this, think of message development and think of all the different types of messages that you create that could benefit from having a small to medium-sized team of individuals helping you craft it, shape it, and hone it. So I'm going to tell you about the different types of message development teams I've been part of, or the different types, because sometimes it's not like one person who has like 20 teams, right? Sometimes it's just like, hey, I need some help with this one thing. So I've participated in brainstorming and kind of masterminding sessions for a talk, like a single keynote. I've participated in message development teams that involved maybe like a weekend-long retreat where the person was trying to figure out the best way to deliver a message in 3 segments, like what do I need to kick off with? What do I need for a strong ending? Cornerstone blog content. If you are writing long form blog content that's going to have some staying power on your site and is going to really establish you as an authority in your topic area, you would definitely benefit from having a message development team help you. And it doesn't have to be a ton of people. I mean, we're talking like 3. Right? 2 to 3 people where you could really brainstorm and help you really shape that cornerstone content. Because if you're going to use this one, say 1,800 word blog post, and you're going to look to get 30 social media posts out of that, couple of videos, maybe an email sequence, you want to make sure that it really does deliver and it's going to, get some legs for you. Another, I actually have helped develop sermons in a group setting, and that was really interesting. Lectures. I know a couple of people who have delivered some guest lectures, and they've wanted to really shape that message so that they make sure that they could deliver on their program learning outcomes. Podcast series, guest blog posts, because none of us wants to show up as a guest blogger and not deliver like our A++ work. So that's another area where you can really benefit from brainstorming with a message development team. And then there's different ways to execute your message development team, right? So for manuscript development, we tend to use Facebook groups. We use secret Facebook groups. They're just easy. People are on Facebook multiple times a day anyway, so it makes sense. But maybe Facebook's not your thing, or maybe your group is smaller and it doesn't warrant a private Facebook group. You can do a group Voxer thread. Voxer is a messaging app that I really like. You could do just a message thread, an email thread. You could even do a Zoom session. I did that for about 6 months with a group of people. There was 8 of us, and every single month we met together on Zoom, and we had a blast sitting there. We just gave each other like 10 minutes of time, right? Like, here, 10 minutes for you to talk about your message, 10 minutes for you to talk about your message, and then everybody would give them feedback. And that was really valuable. So just to recap, I'm talking about how manuscript development teams are an author's secret to a bankable book, because they allow you to road test your book content. But the other thing that they allow you to do is they develop an intimate relationship for the team member that's invited into the author's process. It allows you not to write your book in a vacuum. You have an idea of how readers are going to respond to your book before you ever submit it to your publisher. I shared that I am currently recruiting for a manuscript development team, and I'll put that in the comments. I'll put that link to the application in the comments below. And then I also shared a few tips for how you can apply the concept of a manuscript development team into any type of message you might want to develop. So I just appreciate you for joining me. Definitely, if this video has had any value, if you've enjoyed this free training, please share this with your network, share this with your friends, anybody you know who loves books, loves to write, and I would just love to see your comments. And I will be checking back, and I definitely do respond to every comment I receive. Have a great day.